Hi students, in the last class we discussed the testing of for algorithm to find out whether the given number is a prime number or not. Then we discuss the standard factorization of a given number. After that, using the standard factorization of a number, we calculate the LCM of two numbers and similarly GCD of two numbers, right? Now in this class I am going to explain the topics of Fermat's and Euler's theorem. Right? Fermat's theorem. What is Fermat's theorem? Statement is, if P is a prime number, and A is an integer, then statement is A power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod P. Right? A power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod P. Or the same thing can be written as A power P is congruent to A mod P. Clearly we discussed the definition of congruence in unit 2. Right? Just we discuss one more time. Right? To say that A is congruent to B mod M, when do we say that like this? If and only if M divides A minus B, right? By using the definition of divisibility, it means that A minus B is equal to M into K, where K is an integer, right? To say that A is congruent to B mod M, when do we say that? If and only if M divides A minus B. Otherwise, using the definition of divisibility, we can write it as A minus B is equal to M into K, right? And also you need to remember one result. If AC is congruent to BC modulo M, and GCD of C comma M is equal to 1, right? Then A is congruent to B mod M, right? By cancelling C on both sides, right? This is the result you need to remember. Already we discussed in unit 2, which is congruence is an equivalence relation. That means it satisfies a reflexive, similarly symmetric and also transitive. Now we will see the proof of Fermat's theorem. Right? Let us consider first P minus 1 positive multiples of A. Right? So what are the positive multiples of A? First positive multiple of A is 1 into A, next 2 into A, then 3 into A, and so on. P minus 1 into A, right? These are the first positive P minus 1 multiples of A. Clearly, no two multiples of A are congruent modulo M, congruent modulo P, or are congruent to 0. So what we are saying here, no two of the above two multiples of A. What are the above two multiples of A? So starting from 1 into A, 2 into A and so on up to P minus 1 into A. So no two multiples of A are congruent to modulo P. What is P? Where P is a prime number, right? What is P? Where P is a prime number. So those two multiples of A are not congruent to modulo P, otherwise not congruent to 0, because here we are writing no, right? Suppose if possible, here we are writing no two multiples of A are congruent to modulo P, right? Suppose if I assume that, so two integers are congruent to modulo P. So UA is congruent to VA modulo P, right? So that is where U comma V belongs to. So from where we are getting these U comma V? All these are multiples of up to P minus 1. So 1, 2 and so on up to P minus 1, right? So if we take like this, take this VA other side, we will get UA minus VA is congruent to 0 mod P, right? So implies by using the definition of congruent. What is the definition of congruence? A is congruent to B mod M. To say like that, this M must divides the difference of A and B. M divides A minus B. So here this P divides UA minus VA, right? So implies P divides U minus V into A. So because P divides U minus V into A, either P divides U minus V or P divides A, since P is prime number, right? So P divides U minus V into A, product of two numbers. P must divide any one number since P is a prime number, right? If P divides A, which is a contradiction to given hypothesis. What is the given hypothesis? What is the given hypothesis? P does not divide A. See here, clearly given that P does not divide A. Right? If P divides A, which is a contradiction to given hypothesis. What is the second alternative? P divides U minus V. If P divides U minus V, which is also contradiction, right? Why it is contradiction? Since U comma V both belongs to set 0, 1, 2, so on up to P minus 1. Both values are less than P minus 1. So U minus V value is also less than or equal to P minus 1. But here using the definition of divides right side term always greater than the left side term, right? So which is also contradiction. Therefore, our assumption, what is our assumption? UA is congruent to VA mod P is not correct, otherwise it is wrong, right? Implies that always UA is congruent to R modulo P since U belongs to set 1, 2 and so on up to P minus 1, right? So whenever you divide P by UA, we will get some remainder where R value is belongs to set 1, 2, 3 so on up to P minus 1, right? Up to P minus 1. So UA is congruent to R modulo P. That means UA one into A is congruent to some R mod P. Similarly, 2 into A is congruent to R mod P. Like that, we are getting up to how many multiples of A we are considering? Up to P minus 1. So, P minus 1 into A is congruent to R mod P, right? What about R? Where R is the value which is lies in between 1 and P minus 1. Now, multiplying above congruences, we get, what do we get here? So what about left side? 1, 2 and so on up to P minus 1. How many times we are multiplying A? This is the first equation, second equation, like that. We are multiplying A also P minus 1 times. So A into so on A up to P minus 1 times. So we get A power P minus 1, which is congruent to what about R? R value is also lies in between 1 and P minus 1. So we are multiplying 1 into 2 into so on up to P minus 1. Right? So right side is modulo P. By using the relation, if A is congruent to B mod P and C is congruent to B mod P, then if these two are there, right? If you multiply these two, AC is also congruent to BD modulo P, right? That is one of the property. Whenever we multiply the two congruences, we are multiplying LHS and similarly we are multiplying RHS. Except this modulo P, only we write modulo P one time. So, implies 1, 2 and so on up to P minus 1 product can be written as P minus 1 factorial into A to the power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 into 2 into so on up to P minus 1. So, it is also P minus 1 factorial modulus of modulo P. So, on both sides P minus 1 factorial gets cancelled. So, we will get A power P minus 1 is congruent to, after cancelling P minus 1 factorial, remaining is 1. So, 1 modulo P. The same thing can be written as, here this A power P minus 1 can be written as A power P into A inverse. Otherwise, A power P by A, which is congruent to 1 modulo P. So take this by a other side. A power p is congruent to A modulo p. Either the first one is the statement of Fermat's theorem or the second one is the statement of Fermat's theorem. Now see the statement. A power p minus 1 is either congruent to 1 mod p or A power p is congruent to A into modulo of p. Right? This is the proof. Now we will see the problems on Fermat's theorem. Right. Using Fermat's theorem, prove that 4 to the power 13,332 is congruent to 16 modulo 13,331. So what is the statement of Fermat's theorem? By Fermat's theorem, A to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo p, right? Or the same thing can be written as A to the power p is congruent to A modulo p, the other way of statement of Fermat's theorem. From this we can identify that it is also modulo of, it is also modulo p. So what is the p value? Here from these two by comparing, identifying p, what is p? So let p is equal to 13,331, right? So to apply the statement of Fermat's theorem, there the condition is p does not divide A, right? What is A? A is the base value. What is A? A is 4. So, and A is equal to, take it as 4. Now check whether P divides A or does not divide A. Clearly, right? Clearly, P does not divide A. So now we can use the statement of Fermat's theorem. We can write it as by Fermat's theorem, what is A? A is 4. To the power P, P is 13,331, is congruent to, here I am using this second statement, congruent to A mod P. What is A value? A is 4. Modulo P is 13,331. Right? So now multiplying both sides by 4, we will get 4 into 4 to the power 13,331 congruent to 4 into 4 modulo 13,331. Right? So now it is to the power 1. It is to the power 13,331. Both bases are same. We can add the powers. We will get 4 to the power 13,331, which is congruent to an RHS side 4 power 1 into 4 power 1, which is 4 power 2. 4 to the power 2 is nothing but 16 modulo 13,331. Right? With this we prove that this is true. Right? Like that we have to apply the Fermat's theorem and we need to prove that whether that congruence follows or not by identifying A value and P value. Next we see the definition of Euler pi function. Right? So let m be a positive integer. So what is m? M belongs to z plus, means 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. The number of positive integers not exceeding m, which means that not exceeding m means less than or equal to m. and relatively prime to m, right? Suppose that number is n and relatively prime to m. Means that relative, when do we say that relatively prime? If their GCD is equal to 1. If their GCD, that is GCD of n comma m is equal to 1. So how many such type of integers are there? That number is nothing but, right? We call it as Euler pi function and it is denoted by pi of m. Right, now we will see one example. Suppose if we take, let m is equal to some 8. Now we have to check how many positive integers less than or equal to 8 are there, and also their GCD must be equal to 1. Now we will see. Less than or equal to 8 numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So up to 8, these are the 8 numbers are there. This condition satisfied and all these are positive integers. So this also satisfied. What is the other condition? GCD must be equal to 1, right? So GCD of 1 comma 8 is equal to 1. How many such type of numbers are there? We have to see, right? 1. This satisfied. Next, GCD of 2 comma 8, right? It is not equal to 1. It does not satisfy. Next, GCD of 3 comma 8 equal to 1. How can we calculate GCD? Using the standard factorization method or by using division algorithm. GCD of 4 comma 8 not equal to 1. It not satisfied. Next, GCD of 5 comma 8 equal to 1. It also satisfied. GCD of 6 comma 8 not equal to 1. It does not satisfy. GCD of 7 comma 8 is equal to 1. It satisfies. Similarly, if we check GCD of 8 comma 8, which is also 8, it does not satisfy. How many such type of numbers are there? We have 4. Therefore, we can write Euler pi function of 8 value is 4, right? Like that, we need to calculate the Euler pi function value because 8 is a small positive integer. It is that means we are able to calculate how many such type of integers are there and their GCD is equal to 1. Suppose if a number is a larger number, 10,000 or 20,000, how can we calculate this Euler pi function value? Because it is difficult, we follow one technique. Using prime factorization method, we can calculate it, right? So, first express 8 as prime factorization or standard factorization. So, standard factorization of 8 is equal to 2 cube, right? Suppose if m is equal to p1 power alpha 1, p2 power alpha 2 and so on, pk power alpha k, it is a standard factorization, then pi of m formula is m into 1 minus 1 by p1 into 1 minus 1 by p2 into and so on 1 minus 1 by pk, right? This is the formula. So for this 2 cube, now I am calculating pi of 8 using this formula. So m means here 8, right? 8 into 1 minus, what is the formula? 1 by p1. So what is the prime number here? 2 is the prime number. 1 minus half, which is 8 into 1 by 2 is equal to 4. This is another way of calculating the Euler pi function, right? Next one, Euler's theorem or generalization of Fermat's theorem, right? If GCD of A comma M is equal to 1, then A power pi of M is congruent to 1 modulo M, right? This is the theorem we need to prove here. So what is pi of M, which is the Euler pi function? What is A? A comma M are two positive integers. Before going to this proof, we need to explain one thing. We call it as a reduced residue system. Right? Reduced residue system. It is actually a small definition. Reduced residue system modulo M. How can we define this means? Actually, this consisting of set of integers. Set R1, R2, R3 and so on. R1, R2, R3 and so on, such that Ri is congruent to Rj modulo M, right? For I, it is not congruent to Rj, for I not equal to J. When this is congruent modulo M means, if Ri is congruent to Ri modulo M only, if R1 is different from these two, that means suppose if we are considering R2 and R3, R2 is not congruent to R3 modulo M, right? And any integer x such that GCD of x comma M is equal to 1, right? Now see the definition. This definition, which is Euler's theorem or generalization of Fermat's theorem. Right. Next one is the Euler's theorem or generalization of Fermat's theorem. The other name is Euler's, right? So what is the statement? If GCD of A comma M is equal to 1, then A power pi of M is congruent to 1 modulo M. You know that what is pi of M? It is the value of Euler pi function of an integer pi. Means that the number of positive integers less than or equal to M and their corresponding GCD must be equal to 1. Right. For this, we see the definition of reduced residue system modulo M, which means that which consisting of set of integers R1, R2, R3 and so on, such that no two Ri's are congruent to modulo M. No two Ri's. If we consider Ri and Rj, Ri is not congruent to Rj modulo M for I not equal to j. And for any integer x which satisfies the condition GCD of x comma M is equal to 1, then x is congruent to some Ri modulo M for some I. It may be R1 or R2 or R3 and so on. This is the definition of reduced residue modulo M, right? System of or set of integers which satisfies the first condition is no two Ri are congruent to modulo M. And the second condition is if any x is there, their GCD of x comma m is equal to 1, then x must be congruent to some Ri modulo m, right? This is the definition. Actually, definition is not required, but we use this definition in the theorem of Euler's, right? So, for any set of integers are existing, then next note, if set R1, R2 and so on is reduced residue modulo m, right, then any multiple of these Ri's, that means AR1, AR2 and so on, is also reduced residue modulo m, right? We use this note in Euler's theorem. Now see the proof of Euler's theorem. Let set R1, R2, R3 and so on is reduced residue modulo m, right? From the previous note, multiple of these Ri's is also the reduced residue modulo m. AR1, AR2, AR3 and so on is also reduced residue modulo m. Right? Because these two are reduced residue modulo m means that implies that this ARI is congruent modulo m to RJ, right? These ARI and RJ are not in the same order. That is, we can write it as ARI is congruent to, for some RJ, these two are not in the same order. That means order does not follow here. Modulo m, right? So, now, that means what is the meaning of this one? Some AR1 is congruent to some R3 modulo m, but not in the same order. Right? Here we are considering AR1, here we are considering R3. Similarly, AR2 is congruent to some R7 modulo m, like that. And so on, right? Now multiplying these all congruences, we will get multiplying the above congruences we get, right? Here we are considering the last number is R suffix pi of m. Now this last number is also a R suffix pi of m, right? So we are fixing, that means a finite set of integers. Now what we get here, the last equation becomes a R to the power pi of m is congruent to some RK modulo m, right? Now multiplying all these congruences, left side we get AR1, into AR2 into and so on. The last one is AR suffix pi of m, which is congruent to, right? AR1 into AR2 into so on, AR power pi of m. Right side also, because these two sets consisting of same number of elements, but order is not same, we are taking the congruences product. Here R3 is covered, here R7 is covered, somewhere R1 covered, somewhere R pi of m also covered. So right side we get R1 into R2 into so on, R suffix pi of m modulo m. Now this multiplication, we follow this rule. If A is congruent to B mod m and C is congruent to D modulo m, if two such type of congruences are there, then using the property of congruence, we can write it as then AC is congruent to BD modulo m. Both LHS and RHS we are multiplying. Now, here if you observe here, how many A's are there? We are multiplying A into how many times? Pi of m times. So, A power pi of m. R1 into R2 into so on into R pi of m is congruent to R1, R2, so on R suffix pi of m modulo m, right? So we know that the relation, if AC is congruent to BC modulo m and GCD of C comma m is equal to 1, by cancelling C on both sides, we can write down A is congruent to B modulo m. Right. Now whether this R1, R2, so on R power pi of m, cancelling on both sides, we will get A to the power pi of m is congruent to 1 modulo m, because all these R1, R2, so on R power pi of m are the reduced residue modulo m, means that GCD value is equal to 1, so that we can cancel C here. In the same manner, we can cancel R1, R2 into so on R power pi of m on both sides. After cancelling, we will get this one. This is the statement of Euler's theorem or generalization of Fermat's theorem. A power pi of m is congruent to 1 modulo m. Right? With this, our unit 3 completed. The second half, which is number theory, also completed. Right? In the next class, we will see the unit 4, which is recurrence relations. Thank you.